So my name's Emily Yates. I'm a proud Bundjalung woman. My country is up in Casino in northern New South Wales and across to Byron Bay. I am a managing lawyer in an Aboriginal community controlled organisation. I've been there for several years. My primary practice is in crime and I work only and solely with First Nations people. In terms of how I got involved in OUP in Oxford, I was approached a couple of years ago to start reviewing content, First Nations content in educational resources, and that kind of led into more consistent work of reviewing content and then establishing or helping to establish the First Nations Advisory Board within OUP, which we're hoping to have up and running before the end of this year.
So my name is Jarrara Atkinson. I'm a proud Yorta and Bangarang man. I grew up in Barmer, which is on the border of Victoria and New South Wales across from the Cummeragunja Mission. I'm an associate to the judge in charge of Koori Court, so my role essentially is overlooking all the Koori Court matters that within Victoria. So any Koori Court matters that come through, we essentially delegate all of those to any circuit locations that Koori Court sits in and primarily deal with all of the Koori Court matters that are dealt with in Melbourne.
I think it's really important, and it's something that all teachers should be aware of, is that you won't always know if there are First Nations students in your classroom, and it's a presumption that you should have that there will be. Making sure that everyone's voice is heard, but especially First Nations students on First Nations topics, and allowing that opinion to be heard or that perspective to be heard is really crucial for inclusion, and also just for them to have self-determination in the topics that involve them and their history and their culture, and having that at the forefront of the mind when teaching about a different culture's history. There have been a lot of negative and strong language used throughout history when it comes to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in Australia, and because of the dark history, it is common that a lot of different sources will take a deficit lens because of the dark history as well. But it's also really important to recognise the strength and resilience in First Nations peoples and the survival that has been shown for us over history. And it's easy to lose sight of that sometimes when you're looking at all of the darkness that's happened, but it's really important that that resilience is recognised when teaching this content in the classroom. Through all of the challenges and hardships that have been thrown our way, in spite of that, our people continued to fight and continued to advocate for our rights, and at the core of all of those changes were First Nations activists pushing for those changes, and a lot of the time their voices aren't the ones that are amplified or heard, and it's more the people who maybe enacted the law or something like that, as opposed to the years that was dedicated by that specific community or that family advocating on behalf of their rights. So a big example of that is the Marlborough case, and I know that a lot of the judges got good recognition for so-called activism, but the real activism there, in my view, was Marlborough's family and Eddie Marlborough himself. So I think recognising First Nations people in the forefront of the role that we've played in our own history is really important.
So when referring to this material, I think it's quite important that teachers are aware of that even though we are a small state, that there are a lot of clans and tribes and mobs. So when we are speaking to this material, I think it's quite important that we do consider that there are multiple mobs. If there's anything you would like to add to that?
With different opinions and perspectives and different ways of life, and that's including across all of Australia. So it's important that not one mob or clan is marked as all the same, that there's varying opinions and perspectives like there is in any culture.